I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
Okay, Judd, the people have been clamoring for this. And it's been, it's kind of a slow week.
I think I've been clamoring. I asked you to please do this.
Have you officially been a part of any of the 3 previous Top 100 Wolves episodes? No.
We've casually discussed a little bit of your list, but no, I have never been in the belly of the beast for this.
Big credit to initially 2 years ago, listener Andrew had sent in. He did the homework on. We joked we should put together a Top 100 Timberwolves list for July content or August, and he did it. And we read his list on the show 2 years ago, and then I did my own. Some similarities, but I had some philosophical differences with listener Andrew. And this will now be, I think, the 4th iteration of the Top 100 Timberwolves of all time. Now, Andrew also expanded, listener Andrew, to a top 200 list, which went all the way down to Omri Caspi and Leandro Balmaro, who was here for 5 seconds, and Calvin Booth, Justin Patton, that first-round pick
That
guy.
seems excessive right there, the 200. The 100's really solid. I love it.
So, there's some players that have not, some of the guys that they brought in via trade or players that didn't maybe play before this season are up for consideration here. So we'll go through this over the next, 35, 40 minutes or so. And you guys can argue in the comment section. But first, a shout out to MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air here, Judge.
Absolutely. I've been telling you the story of late last week. Furnace, a little bit hinky, not working great. I call MSP Saturday. They come out, and it's a good thing, too, because it was cold outside, and the furnace had quit working. Joe comes in and fixes the entire thing. It's easy. It's quick. When it comes to something like this, plumbing, heating, air, guess what? You need a guy, right? You got to have a guy. MSP provides that. They're absolutely outstanding. I think the 2 most important words here are trust and quality, and MSP provides both of those. So if you have an issue in that area, give them a call, 651-615-4292, or check out their website, callmsp.com. Call MSP.com. MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Trust and quality, you get it from them.
Also, a shout out to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. Federated's been a longtime partner of business owners dating back to 1904 in Owatonna, Minnesota. They have since, over 100 years, expanded their branches and tentacles into all 50 states. So if you're a business owner and a Wolves fan in Minnesota or somewhere outside of Minnesota, Federated can help you grow your business through risk management. They are here to focus on preventing claims, safety, risk management while you stay focused on growing your business. It's like a rim protector for your business. You can find out more. It is, pretty much. We'll get him a polo shirt. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. So I'm going to unveil this here to you.
All right.
And we'll start with 100, and we will count our way down. I will throw a couple little, just not honorable mentions, but guys who maybe weren't part of the discussion before, didn't crack the top 100, but deserve to be mentioned here. And then we'll unveil in probably 10-player increments, and then you can comment as we go here.
All right.
And we'll dramatically build toward the top 20 and the top 10 Timberwolves of all time. So entering the list for the first time, Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr., I have them both outside the top 100 Timberwolves of all time. Mm-hmm. It's tough. Yeah, it's kind of tough to parse apart whether Rob Dillingham should be ranked above Kendall Gill and Josh Howard. But I have Rob Dillingham 128th and Terrence Shannon Jr. just behind him at 129th, behind Irvin Johnson, the starting center for much of the 2003-2004 season.
I think you're safe to probably leave guys like that out entirely until you see at least a season. So, yes, I think that is very, very fair.
Yeah, and they haven't played a whole lot.
No.
I would say the toughest one outside the top 100 for me was what to do with Luka Garza. He has moved up from the 121 area about a year ago into the 1-teens, 114, 115.
Yes.
But I currently have him behind Chase Budinger and Jaylen Noel, who are both actual rotation players. Luka sometimes gets in if there's injuries, but he's mostly just a great garbage time player at this point.
Yeah. Yep. Budinger actually contributed. So, yeah, I think Luka, he's fun. Like, it's fun when he comes in and fans get excited. But I think history will drop him down. Like once he's done here, he'll be like 190 or something. He'll be like, remember Luka Garza?
Yeah. I mean, listen,
He'll be on that list eventually.
If we did a list of, there's like 2 or 3 other lists we could do where he'd be much higher, right? Players whose production on the court was far less than how much the fans loved them. He'd be very high on this list.
I feel like in that conversation, he's in Mark Madsen-esque territory.
Yeah. Yep. And it's funny you brought up Mark Madsen. So he is just on the outside of the top 100 list. I've got Mark Madsen at 105.
Okay.
Previously, I think he was 100, but we've added some players to the mix over the last couple of years. So Mark Madsen's tough, man. Mark Madsen was mostly just setting screens and waving towels. And he came in that one time to shoot 7 or 8 threes in place of Kevin Garnett so they could actively tank at the end of the season.
And teams need guys like that.
Yep, you got screens and culture.
Yep.
He's in the screens and culture bin, which is Luka Garza's like screens, culture, and garbage time threes.
Yep.
In offense. He'll give you 9 points in garbage time. And before we start counting down the actual 100, I want to tell you that with my own like internal algorithm here, I weigh peak performance above longevity. So if you were really good for 1 year, you're probably going to rank higher than a guy who existed on the roster for 4 or 5 years at a lesser production level. And also, if you have one really great skill, if you are like the best shot blocker in Timberwolves history, that's going to weigh a little heavier because, all right, like Fred Hoiberg is one of the great three-point shooters in Timberwolves history. Just wide open threes in the corner during the peak of the KG run.
Right.
So because he was elite at that thing, he sticks out a little bit more in Wolves history, and he would be a little higher than maybe some other players.
All right, fair enough.
So, okay, we'll go 100 through 91, and then we'll pause, and we'll keep going. The 100th greatest player in Timberwolves history, Darko Milicic. He had a run like of a month or two there, and the David Kahn thought he was gonna like this is a buy low situation.
Just like Chris
here.
Webber, you remember that?
He told Chris Webber that he kind of reminds me of your style of playing. Chris Webber's like, you better leave this broadcast table right now.
No.
99 Antoine Walker was here for like 46 games doing his Antoine Walker thing.
Yep.
98 Rashad McCants, probably carving out a better podcast career at this point than a broadcast career. Or than a basketball career. Derek Williams, 97. Jaylen Clark, previously unranked, cracks the top 100 in basically just a month and a half or 2 months of play on the court. He is the 96th ranked player on my list here. And then Bobby Jackson, 95. Dennis Scott, 94. James Hollywood Robinson, mid-90s three-point sniper,
Portland,
93.
Right?
Portland Clippers.
Yeah.
Clippers.
I remember.
Spud Webb and Stacey King bring us to 91.
Stacey King, who they got for Luke Longley from the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
The name in that list that stands out to me, Derek Williams.
He looked the part, man.
He did. He looked the part. He was drafted the part. Like, everything about that screams, how can he be so low? And yet, if you watched him, you know exactly how.
The amount of dunks he missed. Remember, because it was kind of lob-a-soda is what we called it. Ricky Rubio throwing lobs to everybody. And when Derek Williams walked onto a basketball court, it was like 6'7", athletic, could jump out of the gym.
Totally looked the part.
Smooth jump shot, at least in form.
Yep.
Not necessarily in results. But yeah, one of the great busts, I guess, in Timberwolves history. So that's 100 through. And I will say I have some notes next to these guys, like Dennis Scott, who was a recent random Wolf of the Week. He was a 43% three-point shooter during one of those years, and it was really hard to shoot that high of a percentage.
What year? Do you have that?
It was like I can pull up. It's like
there's just so many random guys, who bounced around, who had cups of coffee here.
Dennis Scott had initially broken the record with the Orlando Magic in the 90s for most three-pointers made in a game. It was like 9 three-pointers made in a game. Now it's like
9 3-pointers. You'd be laughed at.
It was parts of 2 seasons he was with the Timberwolves, but he was in that time. Okay. He was one of the great three-point shooters in Wolves history. In 1998-99, he only played like a couple months, It was a short stint, but he was like a 43% 3-point shooter for the late 90s Wolves.
Incredible.
So 3D getting the boost. Okay, 90 through 81.
Okay.
Number 90, Thurl Bailey.
Oh, Utah Jazz legend.
A really good 1980s Utah Jazz player.
Yep.
A power forward. He was a big Thurl Bailey.
I believe he had been teammates in Utah, if I'm not mistaken, with Ty Corbin, who was also a Timberwolf.
The Utah Jazz pipeline goes. You thought it started with Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert. No, it goes back to.
It goes way back.
It goes through Quincy
90s.
Lewis all the way back to.
You're right.
To Thurl Bailey. So yeah, Thurl Bailey came in those early 90s Wolves teams. They're looking for just anyone who is a professional basketball player that can help this young franchise. And he came in and he was a good guiding hand for a young roster in the early 1990s. So he is number 90. Chris Carr, who once was a dunk contest participant.
Oh yeah.
Is 89. Gerald Green, this is like the dunk contest guys here. Gerald Green once blew a candle out on a cupcake on the back of the rim.
Yep.
Wayne Ellington, Martell Webster, Mark Blunt, Tell Me What I Do Bad, Mike James at 84, Nemanja Bjelica 83, Shabazz Muhammad 82, and then Marko Jaric 81.
Oh my God, is that a collection?
Marko Jaric. So it was Sam Cassell for Marko Jaric was the trade. It was the Wolves were trying to reset after the run of the Western Conference Finals.
Yep.
And when that trade initially came out, I think I was either interning or producing at the time. It was the Wolves flagship, and it is once again right KFXN radio.
Yep.
And it was like Cassell, Marko Jaric, and then there was a first round pick involved, and I was like, wait. They got Marko Jaric, who's like a decent backup point guard, and a first-round pick for aging Twilight Sam Cassell.
Yes.
Oh, wait, no. They had to attach a first-round pick to Sam Cassell to get Marko Jaric, and he was a total bust.
Yes. So as far as Bjelica goes, how many games did that dude play here?
Couple. He showed some flashes.
Yeah.
Belly.
Okay.
Showed some flashes.
It's incredible. But the old school guys I absolutely love. The 90s were the greatest.
Okay, number 80.
Yep.
Sebastian Telfair, who was once touted on Slam magazine. You go back to like the late 90s, early 2000s. He was supposed to be the next Allen Iverson, the next potential face
Steph,
of the league.
right?
He couldn't shoot quite like Steph though.
Yeah, no, but I recall him as like a playground legend who was like going to be the next huge thing, and then he just bounced around.
Oh, Marbury, you're talking about?
Yes, Marbury.
Yeah, and that just didn't quite come to fruition for the Celtics and was he Blazers for a while? Timberwolves?
I think he bounced around to a bunch of teams by the end.
79, Scotty Brooks.
Oh, yeah.
78, Dario Saric. 77, Dante Cunningham. Just a good, solid big man. 76, Luke Longley. Luke Longley was a multi-time champion with the Dynasty Bulls, but before that, he was a Timberwolf.
It's funny how Luke didn't succeed here and Stacey King did in Chicago, and then when they flipped teams, Luke became this key part of the Bulls and Stacey King didn't necessarily succeed here. How did that work out?
Yeah. It's nice to play next to Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen for 3 years. 75, Cherokee Parks.
Oh, his sister was in a great band.
Oh,
it had a name that we probably shouldn't say. I think she played for First Ave like twice or something too.
You can Google that one. Cherokee Park sister
Duke.
band.
Cherokee Parks was a Duke center.
Yep. Did you have Leitner and Parks on the same Wolves team for a minute there? I think they weren't they?
It's very possible, yeah.
So maybe
that's entirely possible.
And then 74, rest in peace, Malik Sealy. 73, Todd with 1D Murphy. Kind of an OG Timberwolf from
Todd Murphy was on the original Mussy team, right?
Just a good solid role player.
Yep.
Like
yeah,
89.
he and Scott Roth and like that whole group was like the same guy. They felt
70.
Like.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of interchangeable kind of random dudes. And there will be more on this list that you'll recognize. 72, Thaddeus Young. And then 71, Michael Beasley.
Oh, wow. The toaster. Which I hope you still have the toaster.
I don't.
What happened to the toaster?
The toaster. The toaster. So yeah, for the audience that isn't familiar with this story, Michael Beasley held an estate sale like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When I can't remember exactly when he left the Timberwolves, but he had a big, I don't know, 3,500 square foot house out in Orono. And he just pieced out to the Suns or wherever they traded him to. And it was like 85% of his house was just intact with all the stuff. I'm assuming he moved in and it was staged or something. Because it looked like an old family lived there.
Or he just didn't want his stuff and didn't give a damn.
So I went to the estate sale. I bought Michael Beasley's cheese grater, his toaster, and then we bought for one of our buddies, we bought a stone patio gargoyle that my friend put on his outdoor patio for like 5 years. And there was even there were shards of toast inside the toaster from Michael Beasley's, I don't know, making breakfast, whatever. And so we kind of just left the toaster. And it was my old bachelor pad, before I was engaged and married.
Right.
And we just we didn't use the toaster. We just kind of left it in the kitchen as like a mantle honoring Michael Beasley.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my loving mother, before she passed away, she came over and we were having dinner there one night, and she was gonna help cook some stuff for some family and friends. And she's like, "Your toaster's, I'm gonna clean out your." Internally, she was saying this to herself. "I'm gonna clean out your toaster." I look over and she's cleaned all the toast crumbles and stuff out. And I said, "Mom, what are you doing?" She's like, "I'm cleaning your toaster. It's disgusting." I'm like, "That was Michael Beasley's toaster." But he had a downstairs entertainment area, and when you open up the refrigerator, there was 2 bottles of tartar sauce and some fish sticks in the freezer. And that was all.
You got hungry. You got cravings, late night.
Definitely had cravings.
He definitely had cravings. He wanted cereal and tartar sauce.
Okay, that brings us to number 70 here. Okay. The other famous Beasley in Wolves history, Malik Beasley, who was another one of the great three-point shooters in franchise history. He's even elevated further as a three-point shooter since leaving the Wolves.
Yep.
Someone forgot to tell him that the parade of homes is a thing out in the western suburbs, and so he thought people were just pulling up on his house. So he pulled a gun on a family at one point, but he can definitely shoot it up on the court. We know that for sure.
I have a question. The only name that stopped me a little bit is this: is Malik Sealy too far down?
Possibly. We can review this one. Let's
okay. I just feel like certainly the tragic circumstances of his death, but he was also, as I remember, a pretty good contributing player.
He was a pretty good player. Yeah, he was. I mean, some of this, we're kind of box score hunting a little bit here, but it was 2 seasons with the Wolves. He was in his late 20s, so he was kind of a career role player at that point.
Sure.
11 points a game, handful of rebounds, mid-range jumper kind of guy,
right.
Played defense. You could make a case that Malik Sealy, keep him in mind as we go through this and see if there's he needs to be above these 3 guys.
And a top 5 Wolves call of all time.
The Pacers
Sean
game winner.
Grandy. MLK Day, correct? I think it was. And he hits the 3. I think he hit a 3 to win. Yeah. And Sean says 3 at last. 3 at last.
Yeah.
It's one of the great Wolves calls.
He banked it in, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, sure did, yeah.
Called bank. So, 70 Malik Beasley.
Okay.
69 Tyus Jones. 68 Taurean Prince, after his Detroit run, came over here. 67 J.J. Barea. 66 LaFonso Ellis had a really good season as a contributor. He was the 4th best player on a playoff Wolves team, if I remember right.
Okay.
Pat Beverly, 65. Giving him some credit for being a key catalyst. He wears out his welcome, but he was a key catalyst for getting back to the playoffs.
He might be low. He might be a little low.
Jamal Crawford, 64. Robert Covington, 63. Randy Foye, 62. And Mike Miller, 61. If Mike Miller chose to shoot 3-pointers in that season, he would be much higher than 61.
Mike might be too high.
So you might swap, you might bring Malik Sealy into this sort of 61 range here.
Mike Miller, to what you just said, he was a really effective, good player who quit doing, in this case, shooting threes, what he did best here. And I don't know if it was coaching. I don't know what it was.
It's very weird.
But I thought of him as a real, among the disappointments of guys who, when they acquired him, you're like, this guy's going to contribute a lot. I've always felt that he was a real disappointment.
I'm making the decision here based on your feedback, because you are part of this committee. We are going to move Malik Sealy up to 61 upon further review here. So he's moving up above Mike Miller.
Okay, yeah.
We'll say that. All right.
Disappointment, Mike Miller.
Okay, as we get to the halfway point here, 60 through 51. Anthony Tolliver, 2 good stints as a quality 3-and-D player.
Yep.
Now we get into sort of the feisty forward complementary players to Kevin Garnett here. Gary Trent, Craig Smith, Felton Spencer was an early 90s center for the Timberwolves.
Yeah. Louisville.
Dean Garrett, a sneaky good defensive big man during the KG era.
Yes. Indiana.
Chuck Person, who once averaged almost 20
Rifleman.
points per season for the Timberwolves.
Oh, the Rifleman was one of the early acquisitions where it's like, oh, Chuck Person from the Pacers, the Rifleman.
And he could sling it, man.
Yes.
Mo Williams, who once dropped 50 points in a game for the Wolves.
Yeah.
Ryan Gomes, Troy Hudson, and Corey Brewer at 51.
Okay. So Gomes had an effective year, I take it?
Gomes had a couple nice little. I'll pull up his basketball.
Okay. I don't remember his contribution.
Very dark era of Wolves basketball there.
That's the problem too. Is it's like these periods of time that were just awful.
Yeah, Gomes was like 07 through 2010 Timberwolves. I think he was part of the KG trade.
He was
coming over here.
Yeah, I recall.
But he was like a 13 points a game guy, a handful of rebounds, just kind of good, solid wing player on bad Wolves teams.
Okay.
Troy Hudson you could probably make a case to put him higher up here. We'll take that into consideration.
He's where 60
52.
52. Okay.
But once you get up
And
into
Brewer
the
seems
50s
pretty
here.
fair.
Yeah, Corey Brewer at just on the outside of the top
Contributor.
50 here.
Yeah, at times a contributor for sure.
Yep. So that's the first half of the top 100 Timberwolves.
That's some old school Wolves just pouring as far as those names go, man. That's a long time ago, or it feels like it sometimes.
We need to do this exercise for like the Lakers or the Celtics, some long-time established franchise, and see who is if the Timberwolves' 53rd best player is Ryan Gomes, who is the Lakers' 53rd best player of all time?
Well, and then if you
Eddie Jones,
if you did the Lakers, factor in the franchise here as well, so you get like George Mikan in there.
Yeah, so they would get Mikan, right? Which is
we don't get Mikan, they get Mikan.
Yeah,
Vern Mickelson.
All right, we'll go through the top 50 here in a moment. Butcher and the Boar could be a great spot for maybe a couple hours before a Timberwolves game. You wander in there and get your Butcher and the Boar on, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's a great gathering space for Southern style hospitality. Phil and I have both been there, and I'm going to tell you right now, it is outstanding. Absolutely top of the line, delicious food. If you want a satisfying dinner, Butcher and the Boar is the place for you. Happy hour 4 to 6 every day. In fact, also get the Judd special. That's right, Sports Dad special. A beer, a brat, and a shot for $15, the whole thing, which includes a huge handmade beer brat with sauerkraut and mustard, any draft beer, any rail shot as well. Butcher and the Boar in the North Loop, actually conveniently not far from the Twins and the Wolves. So if you're going downtown to go to a game, make sure that you stop in at Butcher and the Boar. I'm going to tell you right now, win or lose for the team, you're going to be satisfied.
I think you'll be satisfied at North American Banking Company, too, a Minnesota-based banking company since 1998 with 6 locations across the Twin Cities: Maple Grove, Roseville, Shoreview, Hastings, Woodbury, and 50th in France. And today, especially, spring is definitely here. It's going to be in the 70s. The sun has been shining as we record this. And a lot of you might be in the market for a new home. A North American Banking Company, in addition to some of the other blocking and tackling banking things they can help you with the mortgage process. So whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, or refinancing, the market is heating up this spring, and North American Banking Company can help guide you in your home buying process. Go to nabankco.com/Mackey to learn more. That's nabankco.com/Mackey. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. And there might be some hockey fans who are consuming Flagrant Howls, and there's a fun event coming up. The World Juniors coming to town.
This, folks, is, as far as I'm concerned, as a lifelong fan of this sport, it is a bucket list item. It is that great. And the World Juniors are going to be in town for 10 days starting on December 26th of this year at the X and also at 3M at Mariucci. This is the best annual, and I'm not joking about this, hockey tournament that there is. It's a who's who of future pros, top draft picks, guys who are going to be top picks. Runs December 26th through January 5th. And you can lock in your tickets now. Group play packages are on sale now. Go to worldjuniorsmn26.com, worldjuniorsmn26.com. Again, this thing won't come around much. I believe that the last time it was played in the state was 1982. So we are seriously talking about a bucket list item that's absolutely fantastic. And you can get in on the fun right now. worldjuniorsmn26.com.
Okay, let's keep going here, and we'll get to some of the juicy stuff because there's players that have been added to the roster here that you're wondering where they rank. So number 50, Eddie Griffin, another rest in peace here, and this might seem a little high for him, but he was actually one of the best shot blockers in Wolves history. I think upon further review, Eddie Griffin probably too high being in the top 50 here, but I'm giving consideration to he was skilled. He was here for 3 years, and he was one of the best shot blockers in Wolves history.
Yeah, it seems slightly high, but it's also not egregious.
I'm going to put a note to revisit this one. Too high, maybe put him outside the top 60. Andrei Kirilenko, 49, AK-47. Jeff Teague, another guy who is probably more known for podcasting than basketball at this point.
Really good right now in podcasting. He's hilarious.
He's 48. Luke Ridnour, 47. Rasho Nesterovic, 46.
Wow.
We go back to the OG Timberwolves. Michael Williams had one of the top 10 win share seasons in Wolves history in the early 90s. Good, solid player.
And also introduced this town, as far as sports fans go, to plantar fasciitis. He was the first.
And then Wally Zerbiak came along and advanced it.
Yeah, Shannon Stewart helped along. I think Cordova had it. But as I recall, Michael was the first guy in town to have it.
Zach LaVine at 44, one of the great dunkers and empty calorie scorers in recent NBA history, for sure.
Interesting. I thought you would have him higher than that just because you at the time were a fan of his. So
yeah, I mean, it gets a little feisty here when you get closer to the top 30 to find room for a Zach LaVine. Ricky Davis, who is kind of like a better version of Zach LaVine at 43. Kevin Martin, who is a better version of Ricky Davis at 42.
Greatest shot of all time, too. I've never seen
that weird sort of.
I don't think I've ever seen a weirder setup for a shot from a pro.
Definitely not mechanically sound. And then a J.R. Ryder at 41. Just a horrible team guy, questionable off the court antics, but one of the most talented players in Wolves history.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
He should be top 5. Like if he had seen it through, he's probably top 5 for sure, top 10 for sure.
All right, we'll keep buzzing here. Number 40, the 40th greatest Wolf of all time, is one of the best three-point shooters in Wolves history, Freddie Hoiberg.
Yep.
Number 39. I actually, this is one of the ones I put up for review during this process. I moved Terry Porter up from 45 to 39.
Okay.
He was Stephon Marbury's veteran backup point guard for like 3 years there in the mid-1990s, coming off a great run with the Blazers where they went to an NBA Finals. It was him and Clyde Drexler in that backcourt.
He was a pro's pro.
Just a really important piece to the Timberwolves becoming a playoff team and a team that climbed up the Western Conference standings.
Yes.
Number 38, the defensive 3-and-D specialist on probably the best Timberwolves team of all time, Trenton Hassel at 38.
Okay.
This Jared Vanderbilt might be a little high here, but he was a huge reason why the Wolves went back to the playoffs like 5 years ago. So I got Jared Vanderbilt, 37. Taj Gibson, this is the defensive specialist wing here of the rankings. Taj Gibson was a huge reason why the Jimmy Butler Wolves team went to the playoffs back in 2017 at 36. And this is where we have Donte DiVincenzo entering the list as the 35th greatest Wolf of all time.
A testament to this franchise right there.
He is, I wrote down in my notes here, he is the Wolves' modern-day version of what Anthony Peeler was like 30 years ago. Threes, energy, some passing. On a given night, if you need 27 points, he might be able to give you that too. Mm-hmm. So I've got Anthony Peeler at 34, Chauncey Billups at 33, Doug West at 32, and Derrick Rose at 31.
Ooh,
So now we're getting into some. No, the Billups thing. You think back, you're like, Billups. I mean, he was kind of here. Billups was here for 2 years. He was the David Ortiz in Timberwolves history.
Yeah,
because he showed major flashes. He got some starts. He was like a 12, 13, 14 points a game scorer, great defensive guard, and you saw some major potential there. And then boom, the next year he goes to the Pistons, and a year later they're winning the NBA championship.
I hear you.
It's sort of the what could have been if you would have had Billups with KG there. Would they have even traded KG to Boston if they had those guys together? Doug West, not necessarily a top line player, but just was a steady constant throughout the 1990s. And Derrick Rose had 2 really good seasons, including a 50-point magical game. So that brings us to the top 30.
All right.
Tyrone Corbin, number 30.
Oh, yeah.
Old school Wolf who almost averaged 20 points a game in the 1990, 91 season?
Yeah. Yeah. It might have been the first year in Target Center, I think.
Number 29, Kyle Anderson. Just a great glue guy, leader, Swiss Army knife, utility basketball player.
I will say this. If Kyle's going to be there, I believe Terry Porter needs to move up or Kyle needs to move down.
Okay.
Because I think they were very much the same, huge. I felt that Terry Porter was one of the first real Wolves just professionals.
Yep. You're
he just
100%
knew
right.
he just got it.
We'll put that up for consideration, 100%. Number 28, up from 30th the last time we did this, Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Sure.
I think he's one of the 30 best Timberwolves of all time.
Yeah.
He's one of the best role players in Timberwolves history.
Yeah,
Just
you've
energy.
not rolled past a name right now where I'm like, oh, that guy was way better than Nah.
Number 27, Gorgui Dieng. A very, very good, underrated big man, double-doubles. And this is where I have Julius Randle now, just outside the top 25 as the 26th best Timberwolf in franchise history.
Okay.
If he helps lead them to the Western Conference Finals again.
Top 20.
He definitely jumps several spots here, but it's kind of and Donte DiVincenzo too. It's kind of an incomplete story until we get to the end of the year here.
Absolutely.
Number 25, a guy that unfortunately his play on the court was overshadowed, A, by being paid under the table, and B, not living up to the number 1 overall pick hype, but still a really good compliment to Kevin Garnett. Joe Smith at 25.
Okay.
Latrell Sprewell at 24.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Russell, 23. Nikola Pekovic, 22. Ricky Rubio, 21.
Go back 21 through 26 for me.
Sure. 21 Rubio.
Yep.
22 Pekovic.
Yep.
23 D'Lo.
Yep.
24 Spree. 25 Joe Smith.
Okay. I would flip-flop D'Lo and let's see here if that's fair or not. So it was D'Lo and then whom?
D'Lo, so going up the ladder. D'Lo 23,
Yep.
Peck 22, Rubio 21. Sprewell just behind D'Lo.
Okay, boy, I might flip Sprewell and D'Lo.
I could hear that.
I might flip.
I wouldn't fight you on that.
Because I think when you're talking about peak performance, Sprewell's peak year was more important than D'Angelo.
I would not fight you on that. Yep.
Sprewell played. It's weird. He played a pretty important part in this very small success that this team had in its first 20-something years.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We'll put that up for consideration. And now we get to the top 20 Timberwolves of all time. Number 20, Tony Campbell. He was the first big-time scorer in Timberwolves history.
Absolutely. CBA guy that Muss loved.
Number 19, Pooh Richardson, the first big-time point guard in Timberwolves. It was Campbell and Tony and Pooh Richardson.
First draft pick of all time.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, Pooh Richardson played all 82 games, all 3 seasons he played with the Wolves. He was durable. He could score. He could dish it. And he was the most popular player because you could chant Pooh throughout the arena in the early 90s.
Yes.
8, I had a hard time with this one because this guy is such a stain on Timberwolves history, but he was a good individual contributor while he was here for a few years. Christian Laettner, 18. If you told me right now you got to bump Laettner back 10 spots, I wouldn't even really fight you on it. but he was a talented player on a bad team for like 3 years.
Yeah, I guess my question is, so when to go back to your explanation at the start of the exercise, peak performance, because like Leitner contributed to a bad team for a few years, but was he? But again, Sprewell made the playoffs, for instance, with him, and it's not that Latrell has a spotless track record himself, but I just like Leitner. Leitner was never part of success. Which I think does get held, which I think with your criteria is fair to hold against a guy.
It is. This is one that I'm gonna flag him to be up for review here because, I mean, he was like statistically, he was like like an 18, 9, and 5 guy.
But is he collecting points on a bad team? Because he was definitely a negative as far as personality went.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Because like Campbell collected points on a bad team, but I felt like that was a expansion franchise at the time. I see a difference there.
I'd love to put Julius Randle above Christian Laettner if the Wolves like win a playoff series in a couple months from now.
Yeah.
17, Sam Mitchell, another guy that was just a great off the bench, sometimes a starter, just a
huge in Garnett's
player.
Development. Definitely.
Totally. Number 16, Andrew Wiggins, another guy that should be top 5, but here we are. Number 15, Mike Conley, the perfect veteran point guard presence to play next to young Anthony Edwards for parts of 3 seasons.
Very, very comparable, in my opinion, to Terry Porter.
Yep. Agreed. Number 14, up a spot from last time we did this, Naz Reid. Number 13, Jaden McDaniels, up a spot as well. Mm-hmm. Number 12, I would say the best good player who only played on bad teams guy for the Timberwolves, Al Jefferson. Just like an automatic 20 and 10, automatic low post scorer. Had a good long career across a bunch of bad teams, but Al Jefferson was a really good offensive player.
Sure.
And then number 11, outside the top 10, Stephon Marbury.
Ooh, okay.
I do not think Steph is one of the... I know I'm against the grain on this one. I do not think Steph is one of the 10 best players in Timberwolves history. I'll give you the 10 so you can
I was going to say,
right?
I can't comment until I know the 10.
Number 10, Wally Szczerbiak. Number 9, Tom Gugliotta, who was, make no mistake, when KG and Steph went to the playoffs the first time, Gugliotta was the best player on that team.
Gugliotta plays a very important role in the history of this franchise because he was a guy that sort of established too. Because keep in mind when he was traded here from the Warriors, he had been a guy who came here as a veteran presence as well, and he was still good. And it's so funny too because there's a story here about Kevin McHale with his fastball, and then when his fastball goes right. Mm-hmm. Look at the Googs trade. They pivoted
for
off
Danielle Marshall.
Danielle Marshall, but Danielle Marshall was a high draft pick, and they made that call very quickly that they had made a mistake. And instead of, as the Wolves became wont to do, instead of screwing it up more, they made one of the best trades. That's one of the best trades in franchise history.
It is. I
was a big Googs fan.
On that first Wolves playoff team, Googs was by far the leading scorer. He was an all-star. KG was an all-star too. And he was the driving force offensively and everything. Now him and Marbury clashed heads and then Googs got traded. But he's number 9. Number 8, the most underrated player I think in Timberwolves history is Terrell Brandon. Terrell Brandon was a better overall player and point guard than Stephon Marbury was. And we lamented like, oh my God, obviously it would have been nice story-wise and age-wise because Brandon was this veteran. Like he finished his career with the Wolves.
Yes, he was a great player before.
It would have been nice to keep the young guys together for just a 10-year period.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Terrell Brandon was a better player than Stephon Marbury.
He broke down, right?
He had like a foot thing
foot
too.
Problem, yeah.
Yeah. Number 7, Jimmy Butler. He put the franchise on his back for that 1 year and got the Wolves back to the playoffs. Number 6, Kevin Love. Number 5, Sam Cassell. Cassell and Jimmy Butler are in similar bins in that it was one incredible year, and they brought the Wolves to a new height from where they had been in previous seasons. One of the most impactful individual seasons in Wolves history is 2003-04 Sam Cassell. Number 4, the second most impactful defensive player in Timberwolves history, Rudy Gobert. Number 3, Karl Anthony Towns. Number 2, Anthony Edwards. And number 1, Kevin Garnett. There's your top 100 Timberwolves.
Ooh, boy. I'd love to get Marbury in the top 10, but it would be a definite discussion of how you did it.
Mm-hmm. Most people would say, well, just bump Terrell Brandon or Wally Szczerbiak. But Wally Szczerbiak was a really good player for like 6 years, double the time that Stephon Marbury was here.
Yeah, that would probably be the discussion. Because if you're going to go with peak greatness, Brandon was actually at his peak. And he came here. I believe he had played in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
He was a really good player.
He played with Sean Kemp and
he was
some
a
of those
premium point guard.
Yep.
Yeah, it would probably be Szczerbiak would probably have to go because I don't think Brandon would necessarily.
Yeah. So let us know how far off am I with this list? Am I spot on in certain areas? Let us know in the YouTube comments.
Towns is one. Come on.
Well, some people would say Towns should be number 2 at least over Anthony Edwards. I mean, I feel like Anthony Edwards he's already kind of accomplished more as the leader of the franchise with the baton being passed off a year ago, like Western Conference Finals and all these things.
Anthony Edwards is more of a positive impact on the Wolves really making a seismic move. Like there's a lot of really good players who could be high, but the problem is the Timberwolves have this huge pockets of history that's just terrible.
Yep. So yeah, let us know. Fight me in the comment section and click that like button and the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And then over on the Flagrant Howls, the audio side, so Spotify and Apple, you can help us keep growing the show by giving us a 5-star rating and a positive review. He's the sports dad, Judd. I'm Phil, and this is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.